Dawn Marlene Allen was 50 years old when she went missing from Carroll, Iowa in 2011. That same year, she started going through a civil divorce with her husband, Tom Allen, after 26 years of marriage. Her 25-year-old son, Michael, had also recently passed away from suicide. Due to all the stress and tragedy in her life, she had become lonely and decided to check out an online dating site. She would meet 54-year-old James Snowvale of Rolfe, Iowa, who claimed to be separated from his wife. The two would start dating, but the relationship was not great. It was described that Dawn and James had a very tumultuous relationship. Dawn's co-workers even described James as overbearing and claimed he had once hunted her down at Walmart after she failed to answer his text messages. It was eventually discovered that James was not who he said he was. He was not actually separated from his wife, but was leading a double life and had even been deceiving several women at once. On May 5, 2011, Dawn was set to report to her job at Subway, where she worked for 21 years. Her boss knew that in those 21 years she had never been late or missed work before, so when she didn't show up, the boss knew that something was wrong immediately. Her boss would report her missing at 9:30 a.m. on May 5, 2011. Turns out she had not been seen since May 4, 2011, about 8:30 p.m. at her home. After being reported missing, she has never been heard from again. The morning after her disappearance, her white 2001 Chevrolet Blazer was found locked and abandoned in the parking lot of the Piranha Club in the 1200 block of Plaza Drive. It hadn't been there when the club closed at 10:30 p.m. the previous day. There were no signs of a struggle in her vehicle or at her home. Cell phone records indicate her phone was used for the last time at 3:30 a.m. on May 5th, then turned off a few hours later. On the afternoon of May 4, 2011, one of Dawn's neighbors said he looked out the window and saw James walking down the alley next to Dawn's home. Authorities thought James might know her whereabouts and sought him for questioning. This is when they would discover James had been lying to Dawn and was unemployed even though he had told Dawn his job involved agricultural industry deliveries. On May 9th, police would track down James to a rural property in Coffee County, Kansas, where something unexpected occurred.
Monday night, Kansas police tracked 54-year-old James Snowville to this property that used to be his childhood home. But before they could question him, Snowville committed suicide. His body fell near a shallow creek.
He encountered an officer, pulled out a gun, and shot himself. So unfortunately, we don't have that witness to question anymore.
He had no known history of violence, but about a month before he died, he indicated to his brother that something bad was going to happen. James's wife cooperated with police following his death. They said she couldn't provide many details to them about the case. Investigators believe he was involved in her case, and they also believe she may be somewhere between Coffee County and Carroll. Authorities stated that Dawn had no history of mental illness and wasn't having any problems in her life that would have led her to walk away. Police have thoroughly searched for Dawn, including the use of cadaver dogs, but have turned up nothing. Her cell phone is also missing, a Samsung Acclaim from US Cellular, as well as a bright orange purse and keys to a Chevy Blazer with a key fob. Foul play is suspected in her case and as of today remains unsolved. Martavious Taveros Tay Tay Johnson was born on July 6, 1994. He attended Expo High School and was a former football and basketball player for East High School in Waterloo, Iowa. He had 11 sisters and 3 brothers and was a dedicated employee of a local dry cleaner. On January 5, 2012, he was murdered at the young age of 17. Martavious and his sister went to the 500 block of Sumner Street in Waterloo at about 8 p.m. to drop off the sister's boyfriend. That is where he was involved in a verbal confrontation with some gang members. When a group walking down the street approached him and asked about his gang affiliation, he apparently laughed and cracked a joke before turning to get back inside the vehicle. He was then shot in the back and died a short time later at the Allen Hospital. Martavious' family members said they were given some details by people who were present when the shooting occurred. His family state that he was not involved in any gang activity and was far more interested in sports. They believe he was shot because of his response to the question. Waterloo police brought in a 15-year-old for questioning, but wouldn't say whether the teen was a suspect in Johnson's murder. On the 5-year anniversary of his death, police said they had possible suspects but were waiting on the right piece of information that could lead to an arrest. Martavious was sadly buried on his mother, Tanya Johnson's birthday. Years after his death, his family and friends still cannot understand how his promising life could have been taken for nothing but having made a joke. Police are still investigating his murder, but as of today, this case remains unsolved. Kenneth William Harker, or Kenny, was born on November 18, 1961. He was last seen in Sioux City, Iowa on October 5, 1996. He lived in the 500 block of Colon Street at the time and enjoyed working on motorcycles and playing the guitar. He was supposed to meet his mother, Marie Harker, that day, but he never showed up and she assumed he had forgotten. Kenny had suffered a brain injury a few years prior from an auto accident, leaving him disabled. He had to learn to walk and talk again and had just recently regained his independence and moved out on his own. That same day, his white 1977 Chevrolet Suburban was found abandoned on a gravel road near Sioux City by the Plymouth County Police. Its doors were open, the fuel tank was empty, and the tires were flat. His mother was unaware of the vehicle being found, but continued to try and contact Kenny. On October 9th, after several days of failed attempts to contact Kenny, his mother went to his house and found it deserted. His Australian Shepherd, Kilo, was there and had not been fed in several days, and Kenny's medication was left behind. His mother then decided that it was time to go to the police to report him missing. She stated that Kenny was very close to his dog and took him with him most places, and it would be uncharacteristic of him to abandon the dog without making sure it would be cared for. A local mechanic and friend of Kenny's disappeared at about the same time he did. He returned home several days later after Kenny was reported missing, but suspiciously moved away from the area shortly afterwards. He had been building a Harley-Davidson motor for Kenny at the time he disappeared, but the motor disappeared as well. Friends of Kenny say that whatever happened most likely went down in the shop because they doubt Kenny would have went off very far without his dog. Kenny's mother also suspected her son's disappearance had something to do with the missing motor. The mechanic claimed that Kenny picked up the engine, but his mother Marie stated that isn't possible because he would have been over the moon in wanting her to see it. She stated that he had worked on it too long and put too much money into it to not let her know or anyone else know. The mechanic had a reputation for swindling people, and he had many enemies as a result and was considered a dangerous man. Authorities searched the man's sister's property for Kenny's remains but found nothing. The mechanic has never been charged with Kenny's disappearance. 1 week had lapsed between the time Kenny had last visited a friend and the missing person report was filed, which gave any perpetrator ample time to destroy evidence. Foul play is suspected in Kenny's disappearance, and investigators believe he may have been murdered, and as of today, this case remains unsolved. Harry Dennis Milligan was born October 4, 1962. At the age of 21, he was a college student and a Marine Corps reservist and lived in Avery, Iowa. On Saturday, June 30, 1984, he went out with friends to the Waterworks bar in nearby Albia. People that were at the bar reported that Harry seemed in good spirits and had won some money playing cards while drinking beers. At closing time, he and some friends decided to park their cars at a library and go riding around Main Street in one vehicle. The friends reported that they all parted ways about 4:30 that morning. Harry was last seen traveling north on Main Street in Albia in his 1977 maroon Pontiac Grand Prix with Iowa license plate EIJ244. At that time, it was believed he was heading home, but he never arrived. Harry had plans to go to a softball game later that morning, as he usually did on Sundays, and always brought the balls and bats for his team to play. When he did not show up that morning on July 1st, everyone became concerned, including his college roommate. He called Harry's home and notified his family that he wasn't there. His mother then called Harry's brother Mark, who was also a Marine but was stationed in California at the time, and asked if he had talked to him. He said that he hadn't and told her not to worry, that he would make it home soon. But sadly, that was not the case. Harry was reported missing that evening of July 1st. A search by authorities, family, and friends began, but there were no signs of Harry or his vehicle. An area of local water was searched with a boat using sonar equipment, but nothing was found. His family reported that he would have never left on his own. Sadly, a month after Harry's disappearance, his sister passed away. Also, his parents have since passed away, not knowing what happened to him. His brother Mark continues to seek answers in the disappearance, and as of today, this case remains unsolved. Crystal Ann Arensdorf was born February 1st, 1981. She was last seen around 2 a.m. on July 4th, 2001 in Dubuque, Iowa at the age of 20. She and friends had celebrated the 4th of July holiday by watching the annual fireworks display by the river. They then decided to go to the Knickers Saloon at 2186 Central Avenue in Dubuque, which is where she was last seen. For unknown reasons, the friends left without her, and she began trying to find a ride to East Dubuque. However, no one saw her leave the bar, and she left her car, her keys, and her money behind. She did not show up for work Thursday morning and was then reported missing by family. Robert F. Moots was employed as a bartender at Knickers Saloon in 2001. He pleaded guilty to serving alcohol to a minor in May 2002. Crystal was underage at the time of her visit to the bar. He told authorities that he and Crystal planned to share a cab to East Dubuque after her friends left her. The plans apparently changed during the evening, and Crystal did not leave with him. He has not been charged in connection with her disappearance. Officials announced that Stephen and David Peacock were at the bar on July 4th. The brothers were former Dubuque residents, but at the time they lived in Mount Horeb, Wisconsin. They were questioned about Crystal several times and agreed to take polygraph exams in April 2002. Authorities also seized and searched one of the Peacock's vehicles. The brothers have never been charged in connection to Crystal's case. In June 2015, Iowa Cold Cases received a tip saying David Peacock hadn't used his own vehicle the night Crystal went missing, but had instead borrowed his sister's pickup truck. In 2005, David was charged with 1 count of false imprisonment and 3 charges of battery for the attack on his girlfriend of 6 weeks. He allegedly viciously beat his girlfriend and threatened to kill her and a man he saw her talking to in her car. He was also allegedly arrested in 1993 for possession of a date rape drug. Crystal's family members said that it is uncharacteristic of her to leave without warning. Authorities searched Leisure Lake in Jackson County, Iowa, after a witness reported seeing a body floating in the water on July 16, 12 days after Crystal vanished. The sighting turned out to be a false alarm, and no evidence was discovered at the scene. In October 2001, 3 months after she went missing, investigators eliminated her boyfriend Tim Gerlib as a possible suspect in her disappearance. Dubuque police followed up on more than 500 leads, but have made no arrest in what they still consider a missing person case with a high suspicion of being criminal in nature. Authorities said that they do not believe she left of her own accord. As of today, Crystal's case remains unsolved.